On the 28th of January 1547, the 55-year-old King of England, Henry VIII, took his final breaths. He was surrounded by a number of servants and close attendants, as inside the Palace of Whitehall the king slipped away. He was a man who had been considered a tyrannical ruler, and he was more than happy to turn on his friends and his closest and order their executions. 2 of his wives were even executed, losing their heads inside the Tower of London. He was someone not to be messed with, and doctors, whilst Henry was on his deathbed, even worried that giving the king the news that he was dying would send them straight to the beheading block on Tower Hill, as predicting the king's death was said to have been treason. But many questions still exist about the death of the Tudor king, including what specifically killed him and what caused his death. One thing to consider is that in Henry VIII's final years he was plagued by unhealthiness and became incredibly overweight as he became more and more immobile and took less and less exercise. He had a waist measurement of 54 inches and was moved around the royal palaces by pulleys and ropes, meaning he could not even walk around the grand rooms without help. He was pushed around in an early form of a wheelchair, and he had many pus-filled boils on his legs and skin, and it's also believed that he had gout caused by his lack of healthiness, and further medical issues were caused by his jouting accident that occurred on the 24th of January 1536. Many believed that this was the start of Henry's downfall, and that he suffered a dangerous life-endangering head injury that led him to becoming more of a brutal and ruthless ruler. Within months he would have executed his second wife, Anne Boleyn. However, all of these problems could have contributed to his death. He had a chronic leg wound that festered and became ulcerated and caused him issues for the rest of his life. And also the mood swings caused by a possible brain injury changed his personality. There were, over the centuries, theories that the king may have suffered with syphilis, but today this has been mostly debunked. But what killed Henry VIII? One certainty is that his obesity and health problems led to him dying earlier than he should have done. He was 55 when he died, and this was fairly elderly for a man of the Tudor period. But let's remember that the king was given the best treatments, and he would have lived longer if he was not so overweight or if he looked after himself. One theory regarding his death was proposed by historian Susan Kibet, who claimed that due to probable insufficient vitamin C in his diet and the fact he did not eat fresh fruit and vegetables, Henry VIII may have died due to scurvy. Symptoms of this included weakness, fatigue, sore arms and legs, and without treatment it can cause decreased red blood cells. It can also cause bleeding from the skin and more problems. Of course, scurvy can be prevented by eating a diet of vitamin C-rich foods, but we know that Henry VIII did not eat much of these fruits and vegetables, and this condition today can be improved by taking supplements, and most people recover within 2 weeks. Another possible theory regarding Henry VIII's death is that he may have been of Kell-positive blood type, and that he may have had McLeod syndrome. This syndrome usually presents itself when someone is in their 30s, and it would explain his behaviour changes, and it presents itself in a number of different symptoms, including issues with the limbs, seizures, and late onset dementia. Other possible causes of the king's death include heart failure and organ failure, such as kidney failure. Even problems regarding diabetes have been cited as what finished off the king. Towards the end of his life, the king, it's known, suffered very badly with his legs, and his doctors even tried to cauterize the wounds on his legs with hot irons, which would have been incredibly painful. And the hope was this would help the infected tissue be burned off. He even suffered in his final years with his eyesight, and accounts inside the royal inventory show that he was ordering wire-framed spectacles from Germany, 10 pairs at a time, and was known for not signing his state papers as he could not really see what he was signing off on, or granting patronage to. There were other things inside of the inventory that showed us how painful the king's final years were. As in 1542, records containing orders for walking staffs fitted with whistles or bells on top can be found, as can loud halias for shouting so that the king could be heard. These items intended for the king to summon someone when he needed it, meaning he probably spent a lot of his time in his bed at this point. Another possible syndrome that the king was suffering from is speculated to have been Cushing's syndrome. This has a number of symptoms, including obesity, muscle weakness, thinning of the bones, and also mood swings, and increased irritability and paranoia. The doctors, it mentions, knew the king was dying, and it was Sir Anthony Denny, the king's groom of the stool, who then informed Henry that he was not like to live, meaning he soon would be dead, and he told his master to keep in his mind God and to pray and remember his sins. Henry VIII did this, and in his final moments it was said that he did actually acknowledge that throughout his reign over England he had committed a huge amount of terror and evil, and regretted some of his actions, possibly even the death of his second wife, Anne Boleyn. His final moments were described by witnesses as, at the end there was no master and servant, no prince or churchman, just a priest preparing a departing soul for eternity. Cranmer begged Henry to give a sign that he trusted Christ for salvation, and in response he felt the grip on his hand tighten slightly. It was an evangelical departure, no anointing, no reading of Latin prayer, just a simple acknowledgement of the all-sufficient atoning work of Christ. Cranmer would have been glad of that. And it's claimed that Henry VIII's final words were, "I would take a little sleep, and follow this he sank into a coma and slipped away." There have been many possible theories and beliefs as to what caused the death of King Henry VIII. These range from syndromes that have symptoms that match the king's final years, but with modern science and research, these can be matched up to people of the past, like Henry VIII. But it is certain the king's lifestyle had a huge toll on his health, and this was a major contributing factor to the death of the Tudor monarch. What also must be considered that it's possible that Henry VIII died from old age, as the average life expectancy for someone during the Tudor period was just 35 years of age. This low average life expectancy was brought about by the conditions of England at the time, but the king managed to last an additional 20 years. He outlived his father by 3, who died at the age of 52, and his brother Arthur had died when he was just 15, so Henry VIII, despite his lifestyle and the time in which he was ruling, did not do too badly to live until the age of 55. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe. Thank you.